Hello ladies and gentlemen, TX141 here, also known as Paul, bringing you another Ace in the Day gameplay for the arcade mode of War Thunder. In today's instalment, I'll be reviewing the Focke-Wulf 190 A-1. To give you a brief historical overview on the plane, the A-1 was the first fully fledged production variant of the Focke-Wulf 190 to roll off the assembly line as of June 1941. Seeing introduction into the hands of Luftwaffe pilots a month later, the A-1 received a very mixed reception at first. The positives were its power plant, in the form of a BMW 801 C1 engine, providing 1,600 horsepower upon takeoff. The pilots liked the engine because it provided the plane with a decent top speed, both on the level and in a dive. Additionally, pilots praised the overall manoeuvrability of the plane. While it did not possess a brilliant turn circle, its roll rate was one of the fastest in the field. The negatives with the plane were in terms of the armament, with 4 7.92mm machine guns, 2 of these being based above the prop and 2 of them being based inboard on the wings. Additionally, there were 2 20mm MG FFM cannons on the outer board of the wings. This armament was deemed as insufficient by a number of pilots, leading to the switching of the 2 inboard 7.92mm machine guns for 2 MG 151 20mm cannons as of the A2 variant in November of 1941. Still, the A1 did see some service, with the A1 being introduced to the Western Theatre of Operations by August 1941 and catching the RAF pilots by surprise. The RAF pilots believed that the Focke-Wulf 190 A1 was not a new German plane, but actually a captured P-36 Hawk in service with the German Luftwaffe. As a result, the A1 was able to rack up significant damage against the RAF's in-service Spitfire Mark Vs, with the RAF only seeing the momentum switch back to their side with the introduction of the Spitfire Mark 9 as of the middle of 1942 onwards. The A1 saw the end of its service by the end of 1941, with the A2 variant being introduced, fielding the more powerful armament, and also seeing gradual upgrades to the plane and engine, although the engine on the A2 was the same as the A1. With the historical overview out of the way, how does the Focke-Wulf 190 A1 perform in game? Well, having already achieved 3 kills, we already have to note one major flaw with the A1. This plane is incredibly reliant on its roll rate. As you can see when I've made turns and when I've dived on foes and swept through in order to come back to friendly skies, I've always made use of my roll rate to dodge fire, to get onto target and swiftly eliminate. However, you may have noticed when I was in my initial dive, as soon as I hit a speed of 700 km an hour or more, my roll rate started to lock up. And this is an important note to make about the A1. At very high speed, the roll rate suffers, meaning that you cannot perform extended dives. However, the roll rate works incredibly well, as demonstrated there with that lag free coming directly towards us. We were able to change our path twice, something which you cannot do in say a Spitfire Mark II or a Hellcat, for the simple reason they do not have the roll rate in order to switch up your flight path. Having taken down our fourth opponent in the form of a P-40E Kitty Hawk, I say thank you to whoever on our team killed the Hellcat that was gradually gaining on me. Like your historical counterpart, the Focke-Wulf's engine does provide it with a good top speed, which means you will be able to get away from most opponents on the level, assuming that you both start at pretty equal speeds. However, this is no jet engine, and so when someone comes after you from an extended dive, you're going to have to make use of your roll rate in order to switch up your flight path. Your turn circle's not great. Much like in reality, the Focke-Wulf was not known for a turn circle that could be that of the Spitfire Mark V, but you can use your roll to switch up the flight path to confuse your opponents and hopefully force them to either overshoot or actually to lose sense of where you're going, at which point you can disengage or you can try to get behind them with a great advantage in terms of your position. Now I'll come on to the armament in just a second, but I'd just like to outline that we're on the ground strike map 2 towns, and the setup I'm using is as follows. A 30-minute fuel load with a gun convergence of 250 metres. This will come into account in a second. Additionally, our armament, as I achieve my ace, is as follows: tracer ammunition for the machine guns, and air target ammunition for those 20mm MGFFM cannons. Now the reason I wanted to come to the armament following that is as follows. For pilots both old and new to the Focke-Wulf 190 A-1, you're going to rely heavily on the two 20mm cannons. They're not the best cannons in the world, as I stated in my Messerschmitt 109 F1 review, just because they seem to fire quite slowly. However, if you can get these cannons to work at close range, and that's why I have the 250m gun convergence, as long as a couple of the shells hit, they will rip any foe, fighter or bomber, to pieces. And that's what's brilliant about the A1. It's made for a patient player who's willing to get in close, bide their time, and then make use of those 120 cannon rounds. We should also note at that point that we were gaining a distance on that F4U Corsair that was gradually coming up afterwards, and that's why they broke down on the base. Well, that's how I think, in my opinion. As you can see, our roll rate and our high speed manoeuvrability means that we're able to utilise our plane's performance in order to keep behind this Corsair and eventually finish them off by ripping apart their tail control and aileron control. As you see there, the armament was effective enough to rip out the controls for that Corsair and cause them to crash into the ground, achieving our 6th kill. Returning to the turn circle, as you saw there, I was able to keep behind the Corsair due to the roll rate and also the rather good turn circle at high speed. If you're going to try turn fighting, I would recommend a speed of roughly 400 km an hour or more to start the turn fight engagement, because while your turn circle is not as great as, say, a Spitfire Mark II or Mark Vs, your turn circle can match that of, say, a Yak 7, a Yak 1 or an Aerocobra at that speed and dropping down to 350 km an hour. Still, the energy roll is probably the best roll for the Focke-Wulf 190 A1. So, during the interlude, we now come on to the plane's high altitude performance. This gameplay has all been taken at roughly an altitude of 2,000 metres or less, following the opening dive. The reason for the opening dive was because I was up against higher tier opponents such as a Messerschmitt 109 F1 and a Yak 9, planes which can beat you up to the higher altitudes of 4,000 metres or more. This is because your engine's performance drops off with high altitude, as did the real BMW 801 engine in the end. Ergo, I do like to play the A1 at lower altitudes. As we can see, we're gradually making distance on this Yak 9 in the distance, who seems to be quite interested in our friendly A6M2 and oblivious to our existence, so we'll punish him for that. Additionally, getting revenge for our A6M2 that's just crashed into the ground, with our 7th kill. So returning to climb rate, the A1 has a decent climb rate. It's not the best of its battle rate in 3.3, but it's enough, which means that you'll be able to pursue planes such as the F1 and F2, the Messerschmitts I'm talking about, and Spitfire Mark Vs up to altitudes of about 3,000 or 4,000 metres, at which point their engines will be able to outperform you, especially in the face of Aerocobras and the F1 and F2 Messerschmitts. Ergo, if those planes are not in existence in your game, or you don't see them up at higher altitudes, you can pretty much spend the whole game stalking bombers, as I've done a number of times. The two 20mm cannons will do all the damage for you. Just use the machine guns to do some damage to begin with until you get in close. Additionally, the massive war fire that the machine guns provide means that they can, in effect, either set a fuel tank on fire, and that's why I use tracer rounds, or kill an enemy gunner, which means you can get in closer with minimal risk. As you can see here, our foe in the P400 is quite clever, rolling about in order to try and shake our fire. And because I could not get close enough to make my cannons count, and additionally because my teammates were getting quite close behind me and I was worried about friendly fire, I decided to break off and take the assist instead. Therefore making use of the 42 cannon rounds we've got left to hit this Dornier 217J1 hard. We managed to take out their right flap, however I'm just about to show you exactly how well the 7.92s work. As the Dornier breaks upwards, we're able to continue our fire, achieving a nice critical hit on their right wing, which brings them down into the ground, achieving kill number 8. Really, while the armament does seem rather inhibiting at first, it can be utilised to great effect, just because the sheer volume of fire from the machine guns, especially with their large ammo count, means that you can be pretty free on your spray and pray. You don't have to worry too much about accuracy of the machine guns, it's only in the cannons where it really counts. I decided to quickly break into the furball here noticing the A-1 passing through. As you can see, we can very quickly make our 20mm cannons work at close range in order to kill that A-1B and achieve our 9th and final kill for this game. Ergo, we've never put ourselves at risk, and when we have, we've been able to get away accordingly or had the support of our teammates to escape a situation. And with that being said, it's time to review the stats. So, reviewing this game, we managed to achieve 9 kills, 2 assists, and haul in just shy of 30,000 silver lines. Additionally, we got just over 1,800 research points, with 724 of those research points going towards our research on the Messerschmitt 109 K4. To reflect, the Focke-Wulf 190 A-1 is an incredibly interesting plane, simply because initial preconceptions of the plane may not match up to the experience you have. Personally, I find that the A-1 is a brilliant energy fighter for its ranking, especially at altitudes of 3,000 meters or less, just because the power plant, in the form of that BMW 801 C1 engine, does well at lower altitudes, and additionally you're able to use your roll rate to keep behind your opponents unless they turn very hard, mostly in the case of a Spitfire or an A6M2 Horizon. You should note, however, that your plane will rely on its main armament factor, the 220mm MG-FFM cannons. They will be doing the damage, and as a result you want to make sure that you never waste the ammunition in those cannons and make it count. Moreover, the machine guns act as a good softener for a final blow. By comparison with the rest of our teammates, we see that we led the way, but not by a huge margin, and we contributed well to the win in the game, taking down some targets which were going for ground targets, as well as clearing out the enemy fighters that came over into friendly airspace. Ergo, for the first Focke-Wulf, which was quickly made redundant in the face of the A2 and A3 variants, we can say that the Focke-Wulf 190 A-1 is a brilliant plane for the patient-minded player, who's willing to get a little bit closer than they might have to in, say, a Messerschmitt 109. Ergo, I've been TX1for1, and if you've enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, comment or subscribe for future War Thunder videos on my channel. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care and good luck in the skies!